If you're watching this right now, take a moment to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. You don't want to miss out on the rare treasures, forgotten histories, and unbelievable coin stories that I bring right here. Now settle in, because today's story is one you'll want to hear all the way to the end. Imagine this. It's 1994 in South Africa, a year etched into world history. A year of change, of new beginnings, of a nation stepping into a different future. And in the middle of all that, a small copper-coated coin quietly rolled out of the mint. 2 cents. Nothing grand, nothing glamorous. Just a simple, everyday piece of currency meant to pass from hand to hand, from pocket to pocket, unnoticed and uncelebrated. But today, 3 decades later, that same tiny coin has become something far greater than spare change. It has become a symbol of a moment in time, a whisper of history held in metal. Now I want you to picture a man, maybe someone a lot like you. He's sorting through old boxes, tools, keepsakes, maybe even things he hasn't touched in years. He wipes the dust off one small plastic container, opens it, and finds a handful of old coins. Most of them ordinary, but then he spots it. A faint bronze glow, an old shape that looks familiar. And he reads the date, 1994, the South African 2-cent coin. He doesn't realize yet what he's holding. To him, it's just something he kept for no special reason. Maybe it came back with him from a trip. Maybe he held on to it because he liked the design. Maybe someone gave it to him a lifetime ago. It doesn't matter. What matters is that he kept it. And now that little coin is the key to a story most people never hear. Because tucked into this coin is a moment of transition for a nation and collectors, serious collectors, men who've spent years studying the rise and fall of mintages, the quirks of designers, the shifts in demand, are drawn to stories like that. They look for coins that carry not just metal, but meaning. And the 1994 2-cent piece has meaning by the handful. It was one of the last years that coin was produced before changes in circulation and demand pushed it out of everyday life. The mintage numbers were lower than previous decades, and many of the coins that existed were heavily used, worn down, tossed aside, lost in drawers or swept away by time. That is what makes the surviving pieces so fascinating. Anyone can find a coin from a year where millions and millions were made. But these require patience, luck, and sometimes a bit of destiny. You don't go out looking for one. One finds you. And when it does, you start wondering about the thousands of hands it might have passed through. The shops, the streets, the pockets it warmed, the stories it silently witnessed. Collectors in the older age range. Men who've spent decades learning the difference between ordinary and extraordinary know how these tiny details drive value. They know that history isn't always written in books. Sometimes it's struck onto a small copper disc and forgotten until the right eyes find it again. And they also know that every generation eventually discovers which pieces are truly rare. What makes this particular coin especially intriguing is the quiet way it has appreciated over time. While common collectors dismissed small denomination coins, experienced numismatists paid attention. They watched the market grow. They followed the demand for African transitional-era coins. They tracked the rise of global collectors who wanted pieces that represented cultural and political turning points. And slowly, year by year, the price crept upward. But the price alone isn't the whole story. It's the chase. It's the thrill of holding something nearly everyone on Earth overlooked. It's the satisfaction of knowing you spotted what others didn't. Men who have lived long enough to understand patience also understand how value hides in plain sight until the world is finally ready to see it. And right now, the world is beginning to see what this coin represents. Think about your own life for a moment. How many small things have you saved without knowing why? A pocket knife from decades ago. A watch that doesn't tick but still means something. A photo that's faded but precious. That's what this coin has become. A small piece of the past that refuses to lose its worth. And maybe, just maybe, you have one sitting somewhere without realizing what it could mean now to so before you throw away old boxes, before you dismiss what looks like ordinary loose change, take a moment. Look closely. Feel the metal. Check the date. Because the difference between a forgotten coin and a valuable treasure is often just one moment of attention. And if luck is on your side, that moment could change everything. Which brings us to the part you've been waiting for. The part that surprises almost everyone hearing it for the first time. You might think a tiny 2-cent coin from 1994 could never be worth anything meaningful. But in the right condition, with the right demand, and in the right hands, collectors have pushed its value far beyond what anyone expected. And today, for the finest known examples, the highest grade surviving pieces, the ones preserved against all odds, the potential collector's value has soared to an astonishing figure. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another story about rare coins, hidden treasures, and the surprising value that might be sitting quietly in your old drawers or coin jars. Today's story is one you'll want to pay close attention to, especially if you're someone who grew up in the era when pocket change actually meant something. Because sometimes, the smallest coins end up becoming the biggest legends. Now imagine for a moment holding a coin so ordinary that most people would walk right past it without a second glance. A coin so common that millions of them once rattled in pockets, slid across shop counters, and disappeared into piggy banks without anyone thinking twice. And yet, decades later, collectors around the world begin whispering about one specific year, one specific design, one specific tiny copper-plated piece of metal that has suddenly become a topic of fascination. That coin is the 1992 South Africa 2 cents. For many of you watching, especially those between 55 and 65 and beyond, coins like this were part of everyday life. You might remember how they felt in your hand, the weight, the color, the way they clinked when dropped onto a wooden counter. Maybe you even saved some out of habit, or because your father or grandfather told you that old coins might one day become worth more than anyone expected. And as the years passed, the world around us changed. The cost of living rose, new technology took over, currency shifted, and small coins slowly faded out of everyday use. The 2-cent coin was one of the first to go. When we talk about the 1992 2 cents, we aren't just talking about a piece of copper-plated steel. We're talking about a moment in history. This coin came from a time of change, a time when South Africa was stepping into a new era, when the world was watching closely, and when even a simple coin could carry the weight of a country's identity. On one side of the coin, the South African coat of arms stands proudly, representing unity, heritage, and the spirit of the nation. On the other, the powerful image of a bird gripping its catch in mid-flight, symbolizing strength, vigilance, and survival. Most people who held this coin never knew and never imagined that one day someone would be carefully examining it under bright lights with gloves on, looking for tiny differences, slight mint errors, or features that set one coin apart from the next. Because minting millions of coins means that every once in a while, something unusual happens. A small misalignment, a strike that's just a little too light or too heavy, a planchet that didn't form perfectly, or a die that had worn down. These tiny changes can transform an everyday coin into something collectors dream of finding. Many people today still have old jars of coins tucked away. Some keep them in garages, some in a cupboard that hasn't been opened for years, some passed down as part of family belongings. And among those forgotten memories, there just might be one coin that turns an ordinary day into an extraordinary one. That's what keeps collectors searching, that curiosity, that possibility that something rare might be hiding in plain sight. Even if the coin looks simple, even if it feels familiar, it may be the exact piece someone has been looking for. The 1992 2 cents has sparked renewed interest because of stories about rare versions, unusual errors, and the few surviving coins that stayed in perfect condition. Most coins got scratched, dented, worn down by circulation, and lost to time. But the few that did not, the few that survived untouched, are the ones collectors get excited about. They represent the dream of finding something valuable where least expected, and that's the beauty of coin collecting. For many men in their late 50s, 60s, and beyond, this isn't just about money. It's about memory. It's about reconnecting with a past where life felt different, where small coins still mattered, where a man might spend an afternoon sorting through his change just for the joy of it. When you pick up an old coin today, you're holding a story, and no machine, no app, no modern technology can replace the feeling of holding history between your fingers. Today, when people discover they still have an old 1992 2-cent coin, the first question they ask is simple: what is it worth? And the truth is, most of them are common. Most of them were made in huge quantities. Most of them have only modest collector value. But, and this is what makes collectors sit up straight, there are always exceptions. There are always outliers. There are always the extremely rare, the extremely unusual, the extremely desirable versions that rise far above the rest. That is why people talk about rare discoveries. That is why collectors keep looking through boxes, bags, and drawers. Because once in a great while, one specific coin becomes the crown jewel that changes everything. So if you have a 1992 2 cents from South Africa, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it aside. Take a proper look at it. Keep it safe. Because every legendary coin began as nothing more than a piece of ordinary change, until someone realized it wasn't ordinary at all. And now, the question you've been waiting for. In the world of collectors, in the world of extraordinary finds, in the world where rare coins become symbols of incredible luck and value, one exceptional version of the 1992 South Africa 2 cents has been spoken of, rumored, discussed, and praised for its extreme rarity and condition. And the estimated value placed on that extraordinary example, the one that stands far above the rest, is an astonishing $1.5 million. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications, because every week we uncover rare treasures hiding in plain sight. Coins and collectibles that most people overlook, yet they carry stories, mysteries, and sometimes fortunes beyond imagination. If you enjoy learning about the small things that shaped history and the unexpected value locked inside them, you're in the right place. Most of us grew up with coins jangling in our pockets without giving them much thought. A cent was a cent, a small copper-colored piece people barely glanced at. But time has a way of reshaping the ordinary into the extraordinary. What once passed from hand to hand without notice can become a symbol of a forgotten chapter in history. Today, we take a journey into one such piece. A coin so humble, so unassuming, nearly everyone ignored it. Yet today, collectors whisper about it with excitement. It's a coin that has suddenly stepped out of the shadows. The South African 2 cents coin from the year 1996. Now, many of you watching might remember the 90s well. A turbulent time for South Africa. The country was new in so many ways. Changes were sweeping across the land, reshaping politics, communities, and identity. Amid this transformation, the mint continued its steady work, striking coins that carried not only monetary value but the spirit of the nation. The 1996 2 cents coin is one of these pieces. It's a small copper-plated steel coin, simple in design but not simple in meaning. To someone unfamiliar, it may look like any other coin. But to those who know its backstory, it represents a moment of transition, uncertainty, and hope. Imagine holding a piece of that era in your hand, a small disc of metal that has seen pockets, wallets, dusty drawers, and forgotten jars. A coin that might have bought a sweet for a child or sat quietly on a shop counter during a conversation between strangers. Coins witness life as it happens. They move silently through time, carried by millions of people who never stopped to think that one day, collectors would examine them under a magnifying lamp, hunting for flaws, variations, or the faint clues of rarity. The 1996 2 cents coin stands out because its mintage numbers, while not extremely low, came during a transitional period in South African currency production. Certain variations were struck, some with subtle die differences, and some batches were far smaller than others. Over the years, examples that remained in perfect condition became astonishingly scarce. Many were scratched, rusted, or corroded by the country's climate and circulation. The few that survived in pristine quality began catching the eyes of collectors, as if the coin itself waited patiently for someone to recognize its quiet importance. What makes older men especially drawn to coins like this is not just value, it's memory. These coins remind us of a time when life moved slower, when cash changed hands face to face, when the weight of a coin meant something. Every collector knows that holding a coin is like holding a fragment of the past. You're not just looking at metal, you're looking at craftsmanship, politics, identity, and history all compressed into something no bigger than a button. And the older we get, the more we appreciate the little things that connect us to the world we've lived through. But what makes this particular coin so capable of capturing attention now? Part of its charm comes from scarcity and top condition. Part of it comes from nostalgia. And part of it comes from recent high-end collectors who have begun aggressively pursuing obscure African coins, driving up interest in pieces that were once ignored. When a coin suddenly becomes desirable in high-end auctions, interest spreads quickly, sometimes skyrocketing almost overnight. Picture a collector in his 60s, someone who spent decades studying coins, sitting in his quiet room, his desk lined with albums. He knows value when he sees it. He knows rarity. He knows the difference between a coin that simply exists and one that carries significance. The 1996 2-cent coin has been landing on more of those desks lately, especially those belonging to serious collectors who have the means and the knowledge to identify treasure when others see pocket change. And that brings us to the heart of the story. Not every coin is equal. Not every coin carries the same weight in the world of numismatics. A coin's true worth comes from rarity, demand, condition, and the stories locked inside it. The 1996 2-cent coin checks all the boxes for becoming a breakout piece, the kind of coin that makes even experienced collectors sit up and pay attention. Imagine discovering one. Maybe in an old tin your father kept in the garage. Maybe in a drawer you haven't opened in years. Maybe inside a coin jar you've ignored since the 90s. You pick it up, you look at the date, and you suddenly wonder, is this one of the rare ones? Is this one of the examples collectors dream about? People underestimate how easily fortunes can hide in the everyday world. The biggest discoveries rarely come from treasure chests or buried gold. They come from ordinary places where no one bothered to look closely. And that is why coins continue to fascinate generation after generation, especially men who grew up handling real money, not numbers on a screen. There's something deeply satisfying about the weight of a coin, the shine of copper, the detail of a design carved into metal that has outlived politicians, trends, and fashions. Now, for those who collect or are thinking about collecting, here's the moment you've been waiting for. After all the auctions, the research, the private sales, and the increasing excitement in the collector world, what is the value of a perfect condition 1996 South African 2-cent coin today? In top grade, highly preserved condition, one of the extremely rare examples that has survived untouched, uncirculated, and visually flawless. This coin has been valued at a staggering $2 million.